Hello and welcome back to my tutorial series on Crusader Kings 2. I'm your host Imperialis, and we are going to jump right back into our Dublin game here. Continue playing. One of the interesting things too is after the game has started, you can actually jump in as anybody. It just treats it like a brand new, different start date. So I could conceivably go and become the King of Norway and England, if I felt so inclined, and see what I could do with that. But we have more humble aspirations, namely taking the county of Kildare, and at the moment at least we are waiting on our Chancellor to finish fabricating his claim. So we will unpause and crank the speed up a little bit here and just see what we can come up with. While that's happening, at least while we're waiting for events and stuff to pop up, I'm going to start explaining a little bit about the laws. Now, oh, my daughter-in-law. I don't think I want to... So, again, the lustful thing. This time, the option would be to try and jump into bed with my daughter-in-law, which that would complicate life significantly. Inheritance alone. So I'm not going to make a move. I'm going to say she's not my type, take the prestige hit, and keep at it. But anyhow, I would like to show you this button here. Now, this is the laws. And there's a couple of different laws here, and because we're just a county right now, we don't actually have access to all of the different laws. But the first up at the top here is our succession laws. And right now, our spy master just died. Okay, we'll leave it on pause for now. I'll finish explaining this. Right now, we have the succession law of agnatic, cognatic, gavelkind. And that refers to both the succession law itself and the gender laws. So I'll talk about the gender laws first. There's three different types. There's agnatic cognatic, agnatic, and absolute cognatic. Now, agnatic cognatic is male preferential inheritance. So if there is an eligible son, he will inherit first, and then if there are no eligible sons, any daughters will inherit. And even if the daughter was older, like if she was older than him, he would still inherit because he's male. That's the succession law that up until, probably 2 or 3 years ago, was practiced in England, which is why there were so few female monarchs. You can count them on one hand. 2 Elizabeths and a Victoria, and Mary, Queen of Scots. I think that's it. Now, it's a nice one to have because it'll prefer male heirs, but if all you have are daughters, you don't need to worry about the game ending because you don't have an heir. Now, agnatic is straight up only males can inherit. And that was the gender laws that existed in France, actually. And it was pure dumb luck, for the most part, that the Bourbon dynasty lasted for as long as it did. It went, probably 600 years, and always had a male heir. But that's, as Henry VIII would tell you, is just dumb luck. It's entirely possible to end up in a situation where you've got a whole bunch of daughters but no sons, so that can be problematic. Absolute cognatic is a very uncommon one, both historically and in the game, where males and females inherit equally. And the only places, I'm just going to get rid of that pop-up and then pause it again real quick. The only places that have that all common is some of the Iberian countries, Navarra, and some of the other Basque countries, like countries that have the Basque culture, they practiced absolute cognatic. So those are the gender laws. And then you've got you've got a lot more than 4 different succession laws. Right now I have what's called gavelkind, which means that my territory gets divided amongst my sons. So if I were King of Ireland, my eldest son would inherit the king title and my home county, wherever that is. In this case it'd be Dublin, but he'd inherit that. And then other sons, like the 2nd, 3rd, 4th sons, would inherit other counties. They'd still be subjects of their older brother, but they would get some of my counties. And that can cause your kingdom to fracture quite a bit. And so gavelkind can be a very, very challenging inheritance law to deal with. Seniority is the oldest member of the dynasty inherits everything. So in the case of this, if we look at that, I have a 36-year-old brother. So when Earl Murcad dies, he would inherit. Not my son, my brother. If he died, depending on how many kids he has, he's got 1, he's younger though, then it would flip back to my son. So it's a bit of an odd government type. You see it a lot in the republics. The Venetian Republic relies on the seniority system. But the problem with that is it tends to lead to very, very old kings. Because he's only a few years younger than Earl Murcad, so when Earl Murcad dies, if he dies of old age, the other guy's going to be pretty darn old too. Now, primogeniture is probably the one that most people are most familiar with. Oldest son inherits everything. Gets it all, the whole kit and caboodle. And it's a good government type. The only catch with primogeniture is sometimes you end up with a total dunce as your heir that way. And the last one that we see here is elective monarchy. And elective monarchy means that the nobles vote on who they want to be king. That was what was common. It was more common in Anglo-Saxon England, where all the petty kings would get together and decide who they wanted to be top dog. Is also what the Holy Roman Empire used. That's where the whole elector count comes from and stuff like that. Is the elector counts were literally princes and kings and bishops within the Holy Roman Empire who could vote on who the next king would, or next emperor would be. Scrolling down, tanistry is kind of like elective monarchy, but it's limited to within your dynasty. It ends up having a very similar result to seniority, because like it says, the vassals tend to favor older members from other branches of the family, and especially other claimants. So sometimes that can lead to some weird things. And ultimogeniture is another weird one, where the youngest inherits. So if I had ultimogeniture, then my 13-year-old son would inherit all my titles, not my 21-year-old son. So it's another odd one. The nice thing about that is it can lead to some really, really long reigns. You can have some very, very long reigning kings, because, I mean, if he survives to, say, 60, then he's going to be in his 40s, or almost in his 40s by the time he inherits, whereas he would still be in his 30s. So he'd have a nice long reign ahead of him. And my dog is barking. Just give me a second here. Okay. Sorry about that. Gave him a chew. Hopefully it'll help him settle down. But yeah, those are the succession laws, and then these laws down here are a little bit more self-explanatory. It affects feudal levies and feudal taxation both affect what your noblemen underneath you have to both give you in terms of troops and give you in terms of money. With normal feudal levies, they will give you up to 80% of their total levy, but that is modified by their opinion of you. If they like you, they'll give you the full 80%. If they don't like you, they might give you none. Feudal taxation, same deal. It's just how much tax they got to give you. Now, they will give you the full amount of tax. Like, they will give you the 10% or the 20% or the 30%. But it does lower their opinion with you. They don't like you as much. And likewise with feudal levies. If you make your feudal levies smaller, they'll like you more. If you max them out, they'll like you less. Cities, same deal. How many troops they have to provide, and how many taxes they got to give you. Church, same deal. How many troops they got to provide, how much tax they got to give you. Once you're actually up a little further along in the game, you'll eventually have to deal with crown laws as well, but we're not at that stage yet. So, let's get a new counselor, our new spy master. I've got some terrible spy masters. I guess you'll have to do. Make the wife spy master. And we'll send her back to build a spy network there. Okay, so let's keep going. Don't want to spend too much time yammering away at you. Okay. So, you have come into possession of the Confession of St. Augustine, a series of tomes detailing the life and times of Augustine of Hippo, a Christian theologian from Roman Africa who lived many centuries ago. Studying this historical work could provide insights that would improve your learning. Options: I will read every word, or no, not enough pictures. Well, because I'm trying to improve my learning, I'm going to read every word. At last, you have finished your studies of St. Augustine's Confessions. It took many nights of reading, with only the light of a candle to keep you company, but you do not regret a second of it. Your learning has improved. This work contained many truths, and I gained 2 learning. Now, let's see where my learning's at. My learning is now at 6, so it's actually approaching respectable. I can make that comment go away. Ooh, and somebody had a son. A son was born to Fingon de Ath and Istrud. Okay. Now this sort of stuff typically he's just going to end up becoming another courtier once he grows up, and not really affect too much of anything. Still waiting on that claim. That is the downside to playing as a count, is the early game can be quite slow. Periodically, though, it makes sense to go in, check, and make sure that your target still doesn't have any allies. Because if they start getting allies, then you might want to reconsider fighting them. Go faster. Oh, Norway's still in control of England. Oh, and look at this. Duke William did not become king. He lost that war. The truce with King Harold the Conqueror until February 20th of February 1078. So he has not only lost his claim to England, but he's forced into a truce with Norway. Now, I'm going to leave that like that, because I want to see if anything... Okay. Lately I have become afraid that someone might want to hurt me. I am thinking about hiring 2 food tasters, and maybe a bodyguard would be a good idea. So here, there's a 45% chance that I gain paranoid, which would lower my diplomacy but increase my intrigue. And here there's a 45% chance I gain trusting, which would lower my intrigue but increase my diplomacy. So this is pretty straightforward. I just want to take a look and see. I might go for paranoid. I've got a okay diplomacy, but my intrigue is very, very low. So we'll see if we get paranoid, which we don't. It's only a 50% chance, so, or 45% chance. Oh, and there's Duke Harold of Essex. So that was King Harold. He lost the war, and now he's in prison. And there's King Harold Hardrada, who's now known as the Conqueror, because he's the one that conquered England. Let's see if we don't end up with some rebellions popping up here. It usually happens after the conquest, kind of whoever wins. Oh, see that there? Scotland just had a rebellion. So Scotland has somebody trying to break off and rebel. The leader of the Scottish revolts. Chances are Scotland's just going to crush him, but always interesting to watch and see what happens in the rest of the world, especially... Aha, here we go, this is what we were waiting for. My liege, my work in Kildare seems to have come to fruition. By bribing, cajoling, extorting, threatening, and forging documents, I have managed to fabricate a claim on the county of Kildare, presently held by Earl Connachar of Kildare. I leave it up to you whether to use it or not. Well, we are going to use it. It'll cost us 22 gold and 50 prestige, but we will gain a claim on that county. Now immediately we're going to pause, and we're going to take a look at this situation again. And the first thing I'm going to want to do is go back into my council here, order him to start training troops. I'm going to need the soldiers, and I'm going to order him to start collecting taxes, because we're going to need the money too. So now you see I can raise up to 971. It's going to take him a little while to train up, but it'll be just more boots on the ground. So now you can see he doesn't like me. State diplomacy is +10, but he's furious at -30 because I've just claimed his crown. Now, concerning about him is he does have some money. He's got 106 gold, so he could conceivably hire mercenaries, which might be concerning. But, we look, he still has no allies. That is a good thing. I, on the other hand, have even more allies. So, some of these I'm not entirely sure how I get. Murkard's brother Enna's brother-in-law. Oh, I can't call him into war, but Murkard could. Or Bledin could, if he felt so inclined. So he's allied himself with quite a few of the English nobles. But we are going to gear up for a war in Kildare here. So now when I click on him, go into diplomacy, I have the option to declare war and claim Kildare. So if I win the war, I gain the county, he loses 100 prestige. Now if we make a white peace, which is sort of everything goes back to the way it was, we just pretend nothing happened, I lose 100 prestige. And if I lose the war, I lose my claim on the county, I lose 150 prestige, and I pay 88 gold. So that's why it's always important to pick fights you can win. But now I'm going to probably wait a month or so just want to see what he looks like, the Marshal. I want to see what he's up to. So he's in Kildare to train troops, which would make sense. If I just had somebody claim my shiny hat, I would want to train as many troops as I could too. Now he can train he can bring up a maximum of 893, which is still a little bit less than I can. So that's good. But I'm going to let it run for a tick here. Lower the speed back down. Got some money. That's good. And actually I should probably start eyeballing a second target here for my Chancellor. Is he a good target? He has no allies, and again, if we look at the de jure duchies, we'll see that Ossory is a part of the Duchy of Leinster. So that is the potential of being a second duchy. And that'd give me a really good, solid core in the centre of Ireland. The other possibility would be to take a look at something like Oriel, followed by Ulster, because Ulster has a land connection back to the mainland, or back to mainland of the British Isles, I guess, and it'd save having to move guys around with ships. So maybe, because I've already got the second duchy kind of set up, I will move him over there to fabricate a claim. And this time, it actually makes a bit more sense to have her in there. Because now, you see, he's got a 2-year-old son. That's his heir. If he dies, they're going to have a regency, which penalizes a whole bunch of stuff. And so it might make sense to try and assassinate him. But we'll leave that for now, because we are going to first see how I'm doing on troops. Give it a month or two. Maybe I just want to wait until spring. At least wait until after the new year. Let the autosave tick through there. Okay, now here's an interesting one. Enna MacMurrid claims that he would be a better court chaplain than Domhnall and petitions that he should be given the title of court chaplain. So what that means is, if we look at his character card here, he has a learning of 8, whereas my son has a learning of 7. My other son, I guess, they're both my sons, but he has a learning of 7. So he would make a better court chaplain. However, I don't really want my eldest son here to get too grouchy with me. So I'm going to say I rule in the county of Dublin and say no. So I'll lose 10 prestige and make him grouchy with me, but now here's a slightly more interesting one. I've got my courtier here, who is actually really good. Oh, they're both pretty good. Yeah, I'm not overly concerned with this guy getting grouchy with me. So I will swap out my chancellors. But now, because I've done that, I have a new Chancellor, I need to replace him. Put him back to work. Fabricating claims. Okay, and this message here. Our knowledge of tolerance in Dublin increased to level 2. I guess that's as good a time as any to explain the tech tree a little bit. I'm just going to take a quick look here. Yeah, I still got 100 more troops to raise. So yeah, let's take a look at the technology tab. Now, this is one of the things that would be very, very different from what you would see in some of the older videos. Now what you do is, come on, slowly you will start to gain bonuses in each of these categories. Now, as a count, you can't do much beyond just watch these slowly tick up. But once you become a duke, you'll actually generate points based on your attributes that you can use to bump these up and boost them. So I just increased my tolerance level to 2. So the opinion penalty for different cultures is now -12, and the opinion penalty for a different religion is -12. As it goes up, it lessens and lessens the penalty that you get. And they've all got small bonuses like that. So light infantry improves their attack and defense. Heavy infantry, same deal. This reduces the length of sieges, all of that sort of stuff. Okay. You know what? Let's just go to war. Let's do this. Declare war. Claim Kildare. Now, you'll notice I haven't actually raised any of my troops. That's because if I did have my levies raised, raise them all up, I no longer can declare war. You cannot declare war if you have raised an army, which kind of forces you to think that through and make sure that you're not in a position where you're declaring war on somebody who's just going to stomp you right off the bat, because it takes your levies a little while to kind of work up after you raise them. An exception to this is if you get the Legacy of Rome DLC, you can have what's called retinues eventually, which are kind of like standing armies, and that rule doesn't apply to them. But we will declare war and claim Kildare. So, now, as soon as we've declared war, you'll see that we have a little pop-up here that says we can call in allies. We can ask the following allies to support us: Earl Dimmitt of Leinster and King Bledin of Gwynedd. So we're going to do that. We're going to ask Dad for help, and we're going to ask King Bledin for help. So, and again, these almost always say maybe, but if you look at the pluses and minuses there, he's got a base reluctance of -2. And then +4 because he likes me more than he likes him. So, they're considering a call to arms, and we are going to go back to our military tab here, raise our troops. Not going to bother raising the troops from the town, from the city. They're not going to help out that much, and it won't do much of anything other than make my mayor angry with me. Now, this is what the army screen looks like. Anytime you have an army, each person, or each contributing group, actually maybe I will raise the city temporarily just to show you. Merge them together, so now we have 2 armies. And now you see you've got my personal troops in the middle here, and then the cities off to the left. Excuse me. And each holding will produce its own unit like that. So in this unit I've got 214 light infantry, 443 heavy, 45 pikemen, 145 cavalry, and 15 archers. And then the city I've got some light infantry, some pikemen, and some archers. And it doesn't matter how many units you have, they'll always organize like this, which is historically how the armies were organized. They were called battles. So there's the center battle, the left flank, the right flank, and they were all referred to as battles. Now you can assign different leaders to them, which might not be a terrible idea, because you can see I have a pretty terrible martial skill. And in battle there's always the risk that he gets injured or killed. So to change that, if it's me in charge, I can click on his name, and I can pick somebody else. Overall, I have some pretty terrible commanders. Nobody with a very good martial skill. But my second son here does have a slightly higher martial skill, and he's not my heir. I'm going to actually get rid of this, but I could conceivably add another commander to that as well. So to get rid of that unit, I just need to split it off into a new army here, and select it and disband it. And with that, we are ready to go. We'll start them marching in right away. Okay, so he's raised a slightly larger army than me, but you see his morale is low because he's relying on his city army as well. Now, my personal army will start with a higher morale, whereas if I were to raise the army from the city as well, it'd take them a little while to work up, because I mean they're militia. These guys are a bit more professional. So I'm going to send them right in, try and catch him while his morale is low, even though I'm outnumbered. I just need to hope that he's only got a martial skill of 4 as well, so I should be okay. And Dad's coming to help. That's good. Okay, now this is the battle screen. You can see over here he has his city troops. He's got 130 of them, and he's got 847 of his personal guard. The battle gets divided into different phases. There's the skirmish phase, where light cavalry and archers get a bonus. Then there's the melee phase, where heavy cavalry, heavy infantry, and pikemen get a bonus. And then there's the retreat phase, where light cavalry kind of are the best guys to have. And you can see here that both of them are ganging up on my one stack, and that's normally a bad thing. Okay, and he's coming to help too. Okay, now, Dad's just shown up. So now we've got Dad engaging him directly. Oh no, me engaging him directly, and Dad taking over the center flank here. No, wait a minute, what happened? Okay, Dad's over in the center flank, and oh, his city troops are already running away. But that's not the end of the world, because we now outnumber them about 2 to 1. Anytime you've got somebody flanked like that, they get a bonus. So if you have more battles than your enemy does, it definitely helps. Oh, and Dad got killed in battle. Oh, no, he died of illness. So he was sick in the middle of a battle and then died. Odd. So now we're in the melee phase. But you can see we've routed both of his armies, and we're chasing after them, and we've won. So, victory. We went in with 487 lights, we took 62 casualties, we have the survivors there, all that sort of stuff. It just breaks down how the battle actually turned out. And at the end of the day, he has a little less than 400 troops left, and we have 1,500. Once you combine my army with Dad's, or what was Dad's. Now, both of those are my armies, because I am... During that battle, Dad died, which is a little funny. So I'm now Earl of both counties. Yay me! So that's a good thing. And I'm about to add a third county to my holdings, because with 400 troops left, he's not going to do much of anything. You can see here, I'm besieging Kildare, his capital. He's trying to besiege my capital, but because in here I have a garrison of 648 troops, and he only has 394, he doesn't actually have enough troops to successfully besiege the province. So what I'm going to do, actually, is split off one of these armies. I'm going to split off this army here, giving me 741 troops, and I'm going to send them to finish squashing that guy. It's not a huge threat right now, but it does help. Oh, and my steward just died because he was killed by a mob of angry peasants. So I lose another 15 prestige. And this battle's much shorter because his morale was already so low. And I'm just going to continue chasing him around and try to wipe him out. But in the meantime, I do need to get a new steward. The other nice thing too is I've inherited all of Dad's counselors and stuff like that. So he's actually not a half-bad steward. I'm going to put him in. Take a quick look around here, see if I have better chancellors or anything like that. No better chancellors. My marshals would all be about the same. Already looked at the steward. Do I have a better spy master option? No, I don't. So I actually had a better council overall than Dad did. Ooh, except for him. The new bishop of Christ's Church has a learning of 18, which is insane. That's a very... So, with him having died, I automatically get a replacement bishop, and he's a fantastic one. So, sorry, son, but I'm putting him in charge of being in charge of reading books and understanding things. And again, you can look at this battle here. It's mostly just me running them down. Gonna keep chasing after them. I mean, you take a few casualties while you're doing this, but you'll see each time I win a battle, like my war score there was 65, now it's 68. So anytime you win a battle, it bumps your war score up a little bit. So if you have the troops to spare doing something like this, it's worth it. And now I've completely wiped out his army. So what I'm going to do is merge them back together. And then create a new unit, and I'm going to get rid of that liege levy because they don't provide very many troops, and it's causing the mayor of that town not to like me as much. So I'm going to dismiss that levy, let them all go home and keep doing their thing. Because in here, even though Jeez, this is what happens when you don't go off to war. You get bored and want to sleep with the girls in your court. So, take a look at her. She's not married. She doesn't really have anybody who's going to make her mad or make me get mad at me if I do something silly. So, I'll make my move. Oh, and here you can see the Welsh are coming in. They were mostly there to be in my back pocket in case I wasn't able to handle the fight on my own. But I have obviously handled it quite well on my own, but still always better to go in with more forces than you need than not enough. So. But if we... Anyhow, like I was saying about the city here, if we were to look at him, See how it says there, raised levies at a -1? The longer I kept his levies raised, the grouchier he would get with me. Dad had raised the levies, but he was still getting mad at me for keeping them raised. Whereas with these armies, because they're my personal soldiers, they don't require that. All they need is monthly maintenance. And actually, to cut back on that, which one's the stronger of the two? This one has 716, that one has 742. I'm going to actually disband that army. I can still besiege the castle, but now, once it ticks over to a new month, and I'm not overly concerned about, oh, I went to Deborgale's chamber and gave her a good tumble. It's good to be the Earl. So now there's a possibility she's pregnant, which would be interesting. Oh, and I need to reassign these guys. Oops. Research culture in Dublin. Research economy in Dublin. But yeah, there, now that we've ticked over a little bit, you can see that now I'm earning money again, because I've cut the number of troops that I'm supporting in half. So the way sieges work is they have a morale bar, and we have a morale bar. And as the siege progresses, that morale will slowly decrease until they surrender. It's a bit of a long process. If you want to speed things up, you can order an assault. You can force them up over the walls, charge in, try and bash skulls in, that whole thing. But you tend to suffer a lot of casualties. Somebody died. Kenning's husband, or wife. And somebody... Oh, my son had a daughter. Is that a first daughter? Yeah, that is his first daughter. Oh no, second daughter. He has 2 kids now. Both daughters. Again, remember what I was saying about it being... agnatic succession sometimes being problematic. Oh yeah, I was going to try and find him another wife. Just marry within sort of the family. She had the quick attribute, so... Now, one other thing is... We'll leave it as is. Keep the siege going. So you can see they're slowly decreasing their morale. It's just not worth it to burn the troops on assaulting it. Oh, and you'll also notice I inherited all of Dad's money. And my other son is now of legal age. Castle's almost fallen. Okay, victory! So, now if you look down here, you see we have a 100% war score. Because this is such a small-scale war, and I spent the time stomping down that army while I was waiting for the siege to complete, I've got 100% already. And who have I've managed to imprison fastest way to find this is through the intrigue menu. Imprison one of his courtiers. So, not too exciting, but hey, I got a prisoner. Who I could... Intrigue. Can I ransom him? Now, when you've got a prisoner, there's a few different things you can do. You could just straight up release him, execute him, ransom him, and then try and assassinate him or marry him or whatever the case may be. So I wanted to see if I could ransom him, because it'd be a few gold. It would only be 10, but better than nothing. However, his liege isn't willing to do that, not even for 10 gold. So I'm going to finish off this war, because now I can offer peace with 100% war score. Click offer peace, and it gives me the option to enforce my demands. So I'll gain 77 or 74 prestige, because my the duke or the king down here will gain a little bit as well. It gets divided amongst everybody who's doing the attacking. And most importantly, though, I will gain the county of Kildare. So send that. The Dubliner claim on Kildare war has ended. Earl Murcott of Dublin won. Hooray! So now you can see that it's only been 5 years, not even 5 years, since the game started, and already we have 3 counties under our belt. And if we look up here, we can create a new title. We could create the Duchy of Meath, which would be very exciting, and we may well do in the next episode. But for now, I am going to call a halt to this, and we will come back next time and continue our quest to tutorialize Crusader Kings 2. Cheers.